Right, so as most of you know, dungeons have been nerfed, and for those of you that don't know, in a few dungeons, such as Morgan's Works and Ironhold, a big group of elites would spawn in the same spot, so people could farm them for XP, but now that's been fixed. At first, they were just nerfing specific dungeons like them two, with broken spawns, but now they've nerfed all elite spawns for every dungeon in the most recent patch notes, but they didn't nerf the amount of XP you get from those dungeons. So today, I found a different dungeon that absolutely is riddled with enemies. There's multiple rooms with 4 to 5 elites in the same spot and a bunch of lower level enemies. It is such an easy XP farm if you have a burst build like me. Every single room has got a group of enemies in, so this dungeon's perfect if you're on like an ad clear build or, like I just said, a burst build like the one you can see on screen right now. You can just destroy the groups of enemies and receive a shit ton of XP for it. If you want to know what my build is, if any of you are playing Rogue, I'll have a build video coming out probably tomorrow. So in a second I'll be showing you how to actually get to the dungeon and then how to do it. But I just wanted to show you one of the events that was in the room first. This is one of the chest events where you just try to open the chest and then a wave of enemies will spawn. Once you kill the enemies, sometimes you'll get legendaries from them, but you'll get legendaries from the chest too. As you can see, I got a ring from that enemy. And then I open the chest and I get a ring from this too. So I'll show you. It's in Iron Wolves encampment. Kjolvishad's over here for reference, and the dungeon is actually called Forgotten Ruins. So I'll tell you now the way you actually have to do the dungeon and what you need to do to get to the next bit. The dungeon is a two-parter. So the first room or like area will be a load of skeletons. There'll be named skeletons, fire ones, bloodthirsty ones, ice ones. You'll see them on screen. I'll show you. They do still give you quite a lot of XP, and they do spawn in big groups. In the first room, sometimes there's altars like this, which are just exactly the same as the chest event. You just spawn a shit ton of enemies, and then you can get the buff, which helps actually clear the dungeon quicker. I got damage over time, so every like I think 10 seconds or something, it gives me a burst of damage like that. But even in this first bit, there's still quite a lot of named enemies. And on screen right now, if you look on the map, you can see that skull. That skull is the final boss, not of the actual thing to get to the next bit. So all you need to do is slay all enemies, and it will tell you when you're close. As you can see right there, there's only 10 remaining, or 12. But there's different rooms. So this room is another event, like the altar and like the chest, where enemies will just spawn. It's not an event, but enemies just spawn because you killed another group of enemies, and that happens quite often in the skeleton bit. You kill one skeleton or a group of them, and a big group of enemies will spawn. The skeleton bit is still good for dropping loot though, as you can see in those bits. I got a sacred ring and 2 rares. The rares aren't really the point, it's more the XP you get, and then you do get legendaries. It's just because I've only just turned level 50, but you do get quite a lot of legendaries. Especially from these type of skeletons, the shattering, the shivering, the blood, the fire, there's plenty of them. So I'll show you on the screen once these 2 skeletons die. They do drop rares, everything drops rares, but if you're after money on materials, the rares are actually good. But this boss here is the last boss to get through to the actual room. So the first room is the skeletons. As I said, there's 2 aspects. Once you kill this slithering horror, it does drop you some decent stuff, and it gives you quite a bit of XP. But once you get through to the next bit, there's tons and tons of these slithering horrors in every single room. They're just constant spawn. And then at the end, it'll tell you, as I'll show you in a second, that you need to return the mechanical box to the pedestal, 2 of them. So there'll be 2 rooms, and in both rooms there'll be 5 or 4 elites all next to each other. These are just the basic rooms. So as you see, you've got the thundering Nanagari, or whatever the fuck they're called, the snakes, and the fiery. They still give you quite a lot of XP, and every single room has got these guys in. They're just constant spawn. So once, look, that's a different room, and they're coming through from that room. The actual main point of XP is the 2 rooms with the mechanical boxes, because they have got named enemies in there. So I'll let you watch a bit of gameplay, but then in a second, as I said, the amount of rares they drop, I had to go back 4 times. In 2 runs of this dungeon, I had to go to Kjolvishad 4 times to sell all my items, because they dropped me that many. I went from 2 million to 4 million in gold, and that is a lot for just 2 runs of a dungeon. just selling items. I even dismantled some. I saved the gems and the legendaries in my chest, so I can dismantle and take the aspects later. So for what, maybe half an inventory or something like that, I got 2 million. So as you'll see here, I didn't actually have enough room, so I'm going back to Kyovished to sell, and you'll be able to see my money. So it's 3 mil. I'd already done a run before this, and then I sold the items, and I'd done this 3 more times after. I only sold the rares, I kept the gems, and that's already nearly 400k. That puts into perspective how much rares and gold you actually get from this. I'll just show you now. It's probably about 5 more minutes of me just running through the rooms and running into tons of the Nanagari and or Nangari, whatever their names are, and loads of enemies. With this build, I can just pull them all in like that, and then I put poison traps down, and all my builds just give cooldown reduction to each other. So each item I have, every time I kill an enemy with it, gives a cooldown reduction to the other item. So I can just constantly add clear, and it's really easy. As you can see here, I'm in one of the mechanical rooms, and there's 4 bloodthirsty, sparkling, thundering elites. So they all spawn in the same spot, and then you can just burst all of them like this. If you're running a build similar to mine, you can just kill them all. They do freeze and set fire to you and use lightning, and those eyes are the most tricky thing when they freeze you. But if you play it right, or you've got the right build, you won't die. I'm doing this on World Tier 3 at level 50, and I'm still managing to run through it. So that's the main gist of the dungeon. What you want to do is just, even if you couldn't be asked killing all the enemies, all you need to do is just kill the skeletons, run straight through, and find the room with the mechanical boxes, and there'll be 4 or 5 elites in there for you to just kill. I mean, that's just a quicker method. I don't know if it'd give you more XP by doing that or not, but personally I just killed everything and then left. After you've completed the dungeon, and if you're doing it the way I do it, you've killed all the enemies, then all you want to do is leave the dungeon. I'll show you on screen in a second. Just leave the dungeon. Once you're outside, leave the game, spawn back into the game, and you just go back straight into the dungeon and you'll kill everything. As you can see on screen, I did one of the altar challenges, and it gave me holy arrows, which made me just destroy the elites. So once you've killed them all, as I said, you just need to leave. Here's me checking the map. So there's no enemies left on the map. I just leave the dungeon. It takes me outside. Once I'm out, I just leave the game. And then once I'm in the lobby, I just load back into the game. And then I go back into the dungeon, and everything's reset, and you can just run it all again. So the rest of the footage is just me running the dungeon again, and you'll see me get shit tons of loot, more legendaries, a lot of XP, and then I had to go back to Kyovished again and sell my loot. I did this multiple times on and off camera, but the gist of it is I got a lot of loot and a lot of XP in a short amount of time. I only did two runs, maybe 20 minutes, 10 minutes time ish, and that's with killing all the enemies. So as you can see now, I'll go back into the dungeon, and then everything will reset, and I just run it again. If you want to watch the rest of the video just to get a gist of how many enemies there is, what types of events, and how easy it is to kill them, or you just want to see the build or the amount of XP I get, that's perfectly fine. If not, I'd skip about 5 minutes or something, or you can just end the video here. But anyway, if you do end the video here, thanks for watching, and let me know if it helped. So for any of you that stayed till the end, that's the general aspect of the dungeon. There's shit tons of enemies as you'll have watched, and there's shit tons of loot to be had. If this video helped you at all, or you have any questions, let me know. Other than that, thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed, you can leave a like. That's completely up to you. See you next time.